quick sound check. So if you can hear me loud and clear, please type yes in the chat box. Great, thank you. We will get started with the webinar. So thank you for joining us this morning for the approver's ability to change accounting details on an expense report. My name is Kathy Blackburn. Joining me today is Melinda Kraft, Joanne Callahan, and Mark Tabor. And we will kind of walk you through this process. So on our agenda today is we are going to talk about the travel and expense business purposes, what it means, what does this ability mean to the approvers, changing accounting details on an expense report. We'll do a demo. We'll have 3 different examples. We'll show you where some resources are, and then of course answer questions as we go through this process. So approvers will be able to change accounting details on all of the following business purposes within the travel and expense module. So pretty much everything, employee reimbursement, non-travel, employee travel, the procurement card, the team card, and as we start to roll out the travel card. So you'll be able to go through any of those business purposes and make a change. So what does this mean for you as an approver? It means that accounting details can be changed or updated by an approver, and that would be level 1 or level 2, without sending the expense report back to the proxy or employee for revision. And if you make a change at level 1, once you budget check and approve it, then it moves on to the next level, which would be level 2 and then the controller's office. And if you make a change and you're approver level 2, same thing. Once you budget check that and approve it, then it moves on to the next level. When a chart field is updated, an approver will now be required to budget check that expense report prior to approving, and you'll see that as we walk through this. When you're using USCSP projects and a budget error occurs, it will route to grants and funds management if you don't make that correction while you are on that expense report. And then at that point, they'll make a decision and either and reach out to you and either approve it and override it, or they will actually send it back to you. What can you actually do now as an approver? You can change the accounting details on an expense line. You could add a multiple distribution line to an expense line. You can add a project, or you could still decide not to make any of the changes, and you can and still will have the option to send it back to the originator. And that would be whoever your proxy is or your employee if they're doing their own. The things you cannot do, though, is you cannot change an expense line total amount. So if the expense line is $100, you cannot adjust that to $95. That'll have to get sent back. And it will not allow you to add or delete an entire line. You will only be able to modify what's existing on the expense report. Okay, before we go to the demonstration, any questions on what we have so far?
We have somebody typing.
Okay. And while that person is typing, I'm going to move over to a different environment so we can look at or get in the system and actually start doing some examples.
Gina's asking, if an approver makes a change, does the initiator receive a notification?
No, the initiator does not receive a notification.
Question.
Yep. All right, we are signing into FUAT. And the way we're going to show you the changes for an approver is we're going to only use the work list. It'll work if you get an email and sign in through the email and you get into the same page that we do as a work list, but for these examples, we're just going to stay on the work list today. So I'm going to go up to my work list. And it takes a few minutes, it's thinking. And I'm going to hit my date from twice. And when I do that, it actually brings the most recent things up on my work list. And I'm going to select my expense report. And the one that I'm selecting today ends in 963, or at least for the first example. So once I click on that link on my work list, it'll bring me to the approval page. It's getting there. So as I come to the approval page, I'm going to do what I normally do. I'm going to look here and see that currently my budget status is valid. I have an expense report that has 3 lines. There's an attachment. And then I'm going to actually look at the related content, which is my accounting details. And it's going to show me all the chart field information for this expense report. I'm going to pull up those little dotted lines, and it's going to show me all 3 of those lines. And in this example, we're going to assume that one line should go to a different department. So that first line, which is air travel, we're going to change that department because that's wrong for what we're looking for. So I'm going to go down, click my related content and get rid of that, hit my close button. And then I'm going to move over to the expense detail page. So I'm going to click on that link. It's going to take me to that first page of that expense report where it's showing you everything that you put in. I'm going to roll back across and I'm going to expand all my lines so I can see it just like it would look if somebody put it in. So remember, we looked at that air travel expense line before, the $460. When I expanded all my lines, it gave me everything from my chart field that you can see down here, right? So in this particular example, we're going to just change a department and everything else in the chart field is correct. So we're going to go in and change that department number. Oh, excuse me. I'm going to tab off of that. I'm going to go back up to the top and hit my summary and submit, or my summary and approve. And you're going to notice that when we get back on that summary page, it now is not budget checked. So it's going to make you budget check this before it's going to allow you to approve it. So I'm going to budget check it. I'm going to click on the budget options, hit my budget check. So you can see right here, it's still not budget check. So I'm going to hit my budget check. When I do, and you want it to go through this whole process. So don't X out of this while this is going on. You want, I know that it's rolling like that, but you want it to do that. You're going to see right here that it's valid, but on your report, it's still not budget checked. So to complete that process, you need to hit your OK button.
This is something new for approvers.
It is something new for approvers. So in order to be able to make those changes, this is the process that the system is having us do. So now, if you will look, we now have a valid budget, right? So let's look and see that change that we made. So I'm going to go back to my related content, hit my accounting details, give it just a second for it to refresh that query. And if you look, it's changed that first line to that new department number that I needed to change. So I'm going to bring that related content back down, hit my little down arrow, hit my close right here. And now I'm going to move down on my approval page. It has the exact same thing that you're used to seeing. You have all options that you always did, right? But now I've made the change. I'm comfortable with it. I have not changed any total dollar amount on this expense report at all. I've only changed the department. I'm going to hit my approve. It's going to give me my confirmation page. Let me move that up a little bit. I'm going to hit OK. And now it's moving on through the workflow. So that's our first example. I'm going to go, do I have any questions about that first example? Because I'm going to go back out and find the next expense report. And in our second example, we're going to add a distribution line. And we're going to also type it in incorrectly so you can see what that looks like. So let me go back to my work list. So if you guys have questions, just type it in while Joanne's looking. I'm going to hit my from date twice so that it'll give me my most recent stuff in my work list. Now I'm going to find my expense report that ends in 964. And it is right here. Once again, when I open it up on that approval page, I'm going to make sure that it was already valid. I'm going to look at my related content by using my accounting details. I can pull that up so I can see it all by pulling those little dots all the way up. And on this, I am looking at my first line again, which is my airline travel. So on this, the change I'm going to make is I'm going to say that 2 departments were willing to split that cost. And right now you can see that only one department has that cost. So I'm going to add another distribution line to be able to split or be able to separate the $650. The original department's going to take $350, and the new department that I'm going to type in will only take $300 of that expense. So I'm going to go ahead and make that change, and I'm going to do that by bringing that related content down, closing it completely. I'm going to move back up over to the right, click on my expense details section. When I get on that first page, I'm going to do the exact same thing that we just talked about. I'm going to hit my expand lines. Then I'm going to find the line that I'm looking for, right, which is the airline travel expense line. See, you see that same distribution here. So I'm going to do two things. One, I'm going to add a new distribution. So I'm going to go all the way over here. Let me make sure you can see that. I'm going to hit my plus sign, right? So my first line is only going to get $350 of that charge. So I'm going to change that to $350. And my other department is going to get $300 of that charge. But so you can see what happens if you have, excuse me, if you have a typo, I'm actually going to put $301, which we know will be wrong. So I'm going to put the 301 in, and then I'm going to tab over, and I'm going to put in my chart fill string and my new department number, my fund, of course, gives me my account number in here, right? So now I've allocated, but I don't realize that I added that extra $1. So let's see what that looks like. So I've actually added a new distribution line, and I should never change the total amount on that accounting line. So let's go back up. We're going to move back up the same way to the summary and approved page. So we're going to click on that. We're going to notice that it's no longer valid, right? Because it's telling you the budget hasn't been checked. So you're going to need to click on your budget options, click on your budget check, let it run its whole process. When it does, it's going to tell you on this page that it's valid. And as you can see right now, it's valid here, but it's not valid on the report. So in order to complete that, we're going to click the OK button and let it complete it. It's going to then show us that it's valid on the report, on the expense report. So now if I go try to approve this, and I know my dollars are wrong, when I hit approve, it's going to tell me I have an error on my expense report, right? So we knew that we had had a keying error of $1. So we're going to hit OK. So we know we have a problem. The way to find that problem is to go back to your expense details, which is that page that gives you kind of like if you were entering it in. We're going to, of course, roll over and hit expand lines so we can see everything. And you're going to see that red flag to start off with. So that is telling you you have something wrong. So if I click on the red flag, it's telling me that the sum of my distribution lines have to equal that expense amount line, right? Because you can't change that amount. So, okay, so let's roll down and see what that looks like. It's putting two red blocks in the amount field, so you know those are incorrect. So we know that the bottom one should only be $300, so we're going to change that to $300. We're going to tab off of that. You're going to notice that the red blocks go away, and the red flag is now gone. So we're going to go back up to our summary and approve. And when we get to this page, once again, it's going to tell us that our report is not budget checked. So we need to do that before it will allow us to move forward. So we're going to hit our budget options. We're going to hit our budget check and let it actually run through the process until this page shows valid. So it takes just a minute. So now you see that it's valid right here. We're going to hit OK because it's not valid on the report yet. So we're going to hit OK. It'll run that second process to make it valid on that expense report. All right, so now you see it's valid. You see the budget options are good. We're going to go back up before we approve and look at the related content. So we're going to look at our accounting details once again. And you're going to notice you can see those two lines, right? The original department, the new department that you added. the $350 and then the $300 that we did. And if you look all the way over to the right, you can see that your budget lines are valid all the way down your report. So your report is good to go. It's ready for you to make that approval. So we're going to bring that down, that related content down. We're going to go down to where we can approve. So we're going to hit approve now. And we're going to hit OK. All right, so it has moved on to level 2, and we're going to go on to our final example. And in this example, we are going to do a project. And the way we're going to start this example is we're going to do a project that actually has an error, and you're going to see what that looks like. So as I'm doing my work list, if you have questions, please let me know. Okay, so of course I'm going to hit my date from twice, and my last expense report ends in a 965. So let me find the 965, which is right here. So on this expense report, I'm going to click on the link like I've been doing on the other two. It's going to bring me to that approval page. Once again, first thing I do is see that I already have a valid budget status. So I'm going to look at my related content, which is my accounting details. I'm going to take those little dots and move it up so I can see my lines. And so on this very first line, we are going to change that to a project. Maybe that should have been paid for by a grant or a project, whatever that funding source is. So we're going to change that, and we are going to change it to a project that has already expired. So we're going to expect to have a budget error. And then we will change it to a valid project so you can see what that looks like. So I'm going to bring my related content down. I'm going to close that so we can see everything. Go back up on my report over to my expense details line. When I get on this page, of course, it's going to be that entry page that your folks put everything into. I'm going to move all the way over to the left and hit my expand lines. This will let me see all of this information. We're going to go back down here to this, to our distribution lines, and I'm going to change my entire chart field to include that project. So let me key that in real quick. Do that. We'll take a look at that. And then one more. Oh, thank you. Sorry about that. In just a second. Just having some typo issues. And 6154 and tab one more time. Okay, so we put in a project, and our expectation is that when we go budget check this is going to give us a budget error. We'd like to see what that looks like, because that could happen. So we're going to hit our summary and approve page. We're going to go back and, of course, see that it is not budget check now. We're going to hit our budget options and, of course, budget check it. So now when you get this, let it run its process. It's taking just a minute. All right, so it's telling you that you have errors existing. So you're going to hit OK, that's fine. When you get to this page, we ask that you hit no, because you're going to be able to see what the errors are on your related content. So I'm going to hit my no, and I'm going to allow it to go ahead and hit OK, so that it will actually have errors in my budget. All right, so you can see that you now have errors in your budget checking. So now let's see what those errors are. All right, so if I hit my related content and my accounting details, I'm gonna scroll this up a little bit by pulling those little dots up. And this is the project that I put in. And if I look all the way over to the right, it's giving me an E, and an E is an error. And so we can't process that. So it's telling me what type of error that is. And this is a budget date out of bounds. So basically your project has expired. So at this point, you need to make a change on that line and really not send it through to anybody else. If you forget that and approve it, it will put grants and funds management in the workflow, and then they are going to just send it back to you and tell you that your project has expired and you need to make changes to whatever kind of funding source you have. So it's going to show you that on this approval page. So now we know we have it. So we are going to bring our related content down, and we're going to actually go back into the expense report and put in a valid project. So I'm going to go back to that expense detail page. And then on this page, like we've done in all the other examples, we're going to expand the lines so we can see everything. We're going to come down to that project, and we're going to go in and actually put in the correct funding source for that line. Give me 1 second. When we do that, we're going to rebudget check it, and you're going to see that it's going to be valid. All right, got that in. Everything looks good. We're going to go back up to the top to your summary and approve piece. That brings us to our summary page, and of course, it changed the budget status back to not checked. We're going to click that budget option. We're going to budget check it. We're going to let it run its course until we see that it's valid on this screen. Yep, see it's valid now, and it's not valid on your report yet because you have to hit that OK. So we're going to let it run its course so it'll be valid on your report. And then before we do anything else, we're going to see that it has a valid status, and we're going to go ahead and look at that related content once again. And now you notice that it updated the project, and it also updated the budget status here. So we're now good to go. So we're going to move our related content down to the bottom. We're going to close that. We're going to move down, and we always have the same options that we've always had. But because we've now made the change, we've added that project, we did an incorrect one, saw that it was wrong, went back in, made the change, and everything's valid. We're going to go ahead and approve. We're going to get our confirmation and click OK. Now it has moved on to the next level of approval. Any questions on the examples? Okay, I'm going to move back to the PowerPoint. All right. So we will, on the Controller's Office website, we will put this webinar out there probably today. We have another one tomorrow also, but we will get this webinar recording out there, and the PowerPoint presentation and the job aid. We do have a job aid out there, so if you need to kind of know what I just did, we'll have some documentation out there that'll kind of walk step by step. You will have this ability December 16th, so that's next Monday, or this coming up Monday. Any questions? No? Great. Thank you, guys. We hope you have a great rest of your day.